craziest plays in NFL history.
The NFL was formed in 1920, then known as the American Professional Football Association. In the decades since then, there have been an immense amount of crazy plays that still leave many with their jaws dropped. Today, we will break down some of the craziest plays from the illustrious history of the NFL. Up first is one of the most controversial plays in the history of the league and was deemed the Immaculate Reception. 1. The Immaculate Reception. The Immaculate Reception occurred in a game that took place on December 23, 1972, between the Pittsburgh Steelers and Oakland Raiders in the divisional round of the playoffs. This would actually be the first touchdown in Pittsburgh postseason history. When this play took place, the Steelers were down 7-6 with only 22 seconds left. Pittsburgh quarterback at the time Terry Bradshaw attempted to throw a pass to John Fuqua. However, it was deflected after Raiders safety Jack Tatum threw his body into the ball. Depending on what you believe, Franco Harris then caught the ball off of the deflection before it hit the ground, where he picked the ball off of the ground and began running toward the end zone. With the camera quality being very low and angles being limited compared to today, it is not clear whether the ball actually hit the ground or not. However, the officials did not call the play dead and Harris ran the ball 60 yards down the field to win the Steelers game with time expiring. Pittsburgh would end up being defeated in the next round by the Miami Dolphins by a final score of 21-17. It is still debated to this day whether or not this was a legal catch or not, and with the camera work being shoddy at best, it will likely continue to be debated till the end of time. Next up is an undeniable play also coming from a Steelers legend. 2. James Harrison's Super Bowl Pick 6, the Immaculate Interception. This next play was also historic enough to be given the Immaculate title. The Immaculate Interception occurred on February 1, 2009, in Super Bowl 43 between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Arizona Cardinals and was made by James Harrison. Before breaking down this play, it is important to take into account Harrison's build and his style of play. During his playing days, he stood at 6 feet and weighed in at 242 pounds. He was a right outside linebacker and at times lined up on the defensive line as an edge rusher. He was a big hitter and someone who was known for his strength rather than his speed. Despite this, he would set the record for the longest pick 6 in Super Bowl history. The play began with Harrison in coverage, something he was not supposed to do. He said that he felt he had been a step slow getting to the quarterback all game, and it led him to stay in coverage on this play. This would end up being an incredible decision that may have won the Steelers the game. Harrison then jumped the slant route from Kurt Warner to Antoine Bolden, and despite his size, he ran the ball back 100 yards for a touchdown to end the half. Many believe that Harrison was injured following the play after he collapsed in the end zone and laid flat for a considerable amount of time. Training staff even came onto the field to tend to him. However, he was just understandably winded and was attempting to get his breath back before returning to the sidelines. Pittsburgh ended up desperately needing this touchdown and ended up winning the game by a final score of 27-23. This next play also set an NFL record. 3. Antonio Cromartie's longest field goal return in NFL history. Antonio Cromartie was a 4-time Pro Bowler who made one All-Pro appearance as a defensive back. During his time in the league, he played for the San Diego Chargers, New York Jets, Arizona Cardinals, and Indianapolis Colts. This play occurred during his time with the Chargers in a game against the Minnesota Vikings. With 4 seconds left in the half, the Vikings attempted a 58-yard field goal that Cromartie would catch deep in his own end zone. He would then outrun Minnesota's entire special teams unit to run it back 109 yards to give the Chargers the lead heading into halftime. This would be the third touchdown that Cromartie had scored in the previous 2 games and would cement him in the record books for the longest field goal return in NFL history. Up next is one of the best plays in Tennessee Titans history. 4. Music City Miracle. The Music City Miracle took place in a wild-card game between the Buffalo Bills and Tennessee Titans on January 8, 2000. With 16 seconds left, the Bills took a 16-15 lead and it appeared that they had the game all but wrapped up. However, the Titans had one more trick left up their sleeve. On the kickoff, Tennessee's tight end threw a crossfield lateral to wide receiver Kevin Dyson. This move caught the Bills completely off guard and they were left entirely out of position. Dyson caught the ball clean and ran it back 75 yards to win the game for the Titans by a final score of 22-16. Tennessee would go on to defeat the Indianapolis Colts by a final score of 19-16 and the Jacksonville Jaguars by a score of 33-14. Their playoff run would be cut short in the Super Bowl by the St. Louis Rams by a final score of 23-16. Next up is another breathtaking playoff game winner. 5. Minneapolis Miracle. The Minneapolis Miracle came in a playoff game between the Minnesota Vikings and New Orleans Saints. With only 10 seconds left, the Vikings were down 24-23 on their own 29-yard line. Case Keenum dropped back and found Stephon Diggs on the sideline in what appeared to be a play that would put them in field goal range. However, New Orleans secondary misjudged the play and Diggs was able to slip free and run it in for a touchdown as time expired. It was clear that Diggs knew the magnitude of the play he just made, and once he crossed the goal line, he took his helmet off and launched it across the field as the celebration commenced. The Vikings would win by a final score of 29-24, but they would be bounced in the next round by the Philadelphia Eagles by a final score of 7-38. While our next play did not happen in a high-stakes game like the playoffs or Super Bowl, it was still one of the craziest plays in recent history. 6. Miami Miracle. This play, like many others in the list, made its way into the record books at the time as being the only walk-off scoring play off of multiple laterals to win a game in NFL history. It came in a regular season game between the Miami Dolphins and New England Patriots. Ryan Tannehill found Kenny Stills, who then lateraled the ball to Devontae Parker, who threw the ball back to Kenyon Drake. Interestingly, Rob Gronkowski was the Patriots' last line of defense. He did not score 34-33, while many believed that this would be the game that propelled the Dolphins into a hot streak that would land them a playoff spot. They would lose all of their remaining games this season. While they did not make the postseason, they put together one of the craziest plays the league has ever seen. Our next play is arguably the biggest blunder ever seen on the league's biggest stage. 7. Malcolm Butler goal line interception in the Super Bowl. Everyone knows the joke of the Seahawks should have run the ball. However, it overshadows the incredible play made by Malcolm Butler. The Seattle Seahawks found themselves on the goal line with the Super Bowl on the line. Head coach Pete Carroll would decide to run a short pass rather than trying to run the ball in with Marshawn Lynch. Young cornerback Malcolm Butler would play the ball perfectly and jump the route, sealing the game for the Patriots. Rounding out the list is a play that caused a rule change and is still one of the most hotly debated plays in league history. 8. The Tuck Rule. The Tuck Rule was put into place shortly after a game between the New England Patriots and Oakland Raiders. In a game that went to overtime, Charles Woodson seemingly sacked Tom Brady. However, the play was reviewed and officials determined that Brady attempted to tuck the ball, making the play an incomplete pass. If the call could not have been overturned, it would have been the Raiders' ball and they more than likely would have won the game, keeping the Patriots from winning their first Super Bowl in the Tom Brady era.